Deep in the heart of the Amazon, a silent giant lurks beneath the surface. Meet the green anaconda, the undisputed heavyweight champion of the reptile world, reaching weights of up to 500 pounds. These massive constrictors are built for sheer power. The olive green scales and black oval patches provide the perfect camouflage in the shadows of the forest floor, with eyes and nostrils positioned on top of their heads. They are masters of the water, stealthily approaching unsuspecting prey, a true marvel of evolution. This apex predator remains the mysterious guardian of the flooded forest.
Okay, deep in the heart of the Amazon, there's a creature that is the very definition of raw power. Today, we're diving into the world of a true titan of the animal kingdom, the magnificent and, let's be honest, absolutely terrifying green anaconda. The largest and most powerful snake on the planet. I mean, that's a heck of a claim, right? Our source material is not messing around. But is that just hype? Well, let's break down the science behind that incredible statement and see for ourselves. So, with a creature this legendary, where do we even begin? Let's start with the fundamentals, its official identity. Right here is where that most powerful claim really starts to make sense. Its scientific name is Eunectes marinus, and yeah, it's part of the boa family. But look at that last detail. Non-venomous constrictor. Its power has nothing to do with venom. It's all about pure, brutal physical force. All right, now for the part that just blows my mind every time. The sheer size of this animal. The numbers we're about to get into are just staggering. And this brings us to a really important distinction, something people get mixed up all the time. When we say the biggest snake, what do we actually mean? Well, the reticulated python, that guy often wins the prize for being the longest snake. But the green anaconda, it is, without a doubt, the world's heaviest. It is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. So how heavy are we talking? Get ready for this. 250 kilograms. That's over 550 pounds. To give you some context, that's like stacking 3 grown men on top of each other. Just let that number sink in for a second. And if that's still hard to picture, think about this. We're talking about the weight of a full-sized horse. Now imagine all of that muscle, all of that power, squeezed into the body of a snake. It is absolutely mind-bending. And what about length? I mean, they're not the absolute longest, but they are still completely massive. The biggest ones can stretch up to 9 meters. That's nearly 30 feet long. That's longer than most rooms you'll ever stand in. But it's not just the weight and the length. For me, this is the stat that really paints the picture of its power. Its body can be 30 centimeters, that's a full foot, in diameter. We're talking about the thickness of a car tire. So how does an animal this huge become such a perfect, stealthy predator? Well, the answer is all in its incredible anatomy. This creature is built for one thing, and one thing only, the hunt. You know, every single part of the anaconda is perfectly tuned for where it lives. Think about it. Its eyes and nostrils are on the very top of its head, making it a natural periscope. It can hide its whole enormous body underwater and still see and breathe. Its scales are the perfect camouflage for those murky jungle rivers. And that forked tongue, it's constantly tasting the air, picking up chemical trails, tracking its next meal. All of those adaptations are pretty amazing, right? But our source material points to one physical trait that is maybe the most extreme of all. Any guesses what it could be? It's something called sexual dimorphism, and in anacondas, it's totally off the charts. The females are dramatically, almost absurdly larger than the males. We're not talking a small difference here. It's one of the biggest size gaps you'll find in any vertebrate on the entire planet. So when you hear those incredible stories about giant anacondas, you're hearing stories about the females. So all these incredible features, the massive size, the specialized body, the sheer power, they all tie back to one single crucial thing, its habitat. The green anaconda is a true icon of South America. It thrives in these huge, waterlogged regions. Its kingdom is really centered around the Amazon and Orinoco river basins, the lifeblood of the entire rainforest. To really get this snake, you have to understand this one word, semi-aquatic. They are creatures of two worlds, land and water, but one of those worlds is way, way more important to them. And that's the whole key to their existence. Swamps, marshes, slow-moving rivers. This is where the anaconda is king. You will almost never find one far from the water's edge. So why the obsession with water? Well, it all comes down to simple physics. On land, a 550-pound snake is, it's slow and clumsy. But slip that same snake into the water, and its enormous weight is supported. It becomes graceful, fast, and terrifyingly efficient. The water is the true source of its power. So what have we seen? We have a perfectly evolved aquatic hunter, a true monarch of the Amazon's waterways, built for incredible power and stealth. And all of that leaves us with one final, pretty chilling thought. What does that mean for every other creature that has to share the water with it?
All right, let's dive deep into the Amazon, shall we? We're going after a creature of pure legend, a giant snake that's been the star of so many myths and movies, the Anaconda. But you have to wonder, right? How much of what we think we know is actually true?
So let's just get right to it with the biggest question of all. Is this thing the terrifying man-eating monster from the movies? Or is it something else? A perfectly adapted biological marvel? That's what we're going to figure out. We're separating the myth from the muscle. To really understand this creature, you have to start with how it hunts. It's not just some predator. It is an absolute master of the ambush. Okay, first thing you've got to get straight. Anacondas have absolutely zero venom, not a drop. Their power isn't in some toxic bite. It's in pure, raw, constricting strength. They are true apex predators, sitting right at the very top of their food chain. And its technique is just brilliant. It's like a 4-act play. First, there's this incredible patience, just waiting, perfectly still. Then, bam, a lightning-fast strike. It sinks in these backward curved teeth, which means there's no escaping. Then comes the coil, and this part is key. They tighten their grip every single time their prey breathes out. That makes it impossible to ever breathe back in. And finally, it's swallowed whole, always head first, so all the limbs just fold up neatly. But here is our first huge mythbuster. We've all heard the kill by suffocation, right? Well, that's actually not true. The real cause of death is something called circulatory arrest. The pressure from those coils is so unbelievably powerful that it literally stops blood from getting to the brain and heart. It's way faster and way more efficient than suffocation. Death comes in just a few minutes. So what is it using this incredible power on? Well, the menu is pretty vast. We're talking everything from fish and birds to armored caimans. They can take down big mammals like deer and capybaras. And yeah, in a true battle of the titans, anacondas have even been known to prey on jaguars. Now, what about humans? It's really important to say this. Attacks are exceptionally rare. We are definitely not their usual meal. So how did the anaconda get so good at what it does? This wasn't an accident. We're talking about millions of years of evolution crafting the perfect aquatic killing machine. Just look at this comparison for a second. Our jaw, it's basically one solid piece of bone. And an anaconda's jaw, on the other hand, is made of all these loosely connected bones and ligaments that can stretch and move all on their own. That's how it can unhinge its jaw to swallow something as massive as a deer. It's just an incredible piece of biological engineering. And that jaw is just the beginning. Their metabolism is incredibly slow, which means one gigantic meal can keep them going for months. They have these heat-sensing pits along their lips to find warm-blooded prey, even in the dark. Their body is just packed with hundreds of powerful muscles for that lethal squeeze. And get this, They only have one working lung, which is an adaptation for that long, skinny body.
With all these tools for surviving a tough life, you might wonder how long they live. Well, out there in the wild, the average lifespan is about this many years. 10. Yeah, just 10. Now, in captivity, they can live up to 30, but in the Amazon, it's a much shorter, much more brutal life.
Okay, so we've seen how they hunt, we've seen how they're built, but how do they make more anacondas? Well, it turns out it's one of the weirdest and most fascinating things you'll see in the entire animal kingdom.
It all kicks off with a number. This number. Up to 12. That's how many males you might see all drawn to a single, much larger female when it's mating season.
And what happens next is they form something called a breeding ball. Just imagine it. A dozen males all wrapped around one female, like a slow-motion wrestling match that can go on for weeks. Each one is competing to be the one that gets to mate. It's this huge, writhing mass of snakes. Now, after about 6 or 7 months, something happens that just defies what most of us think about snakes. We picture snakes laying eggs, right? Well, not the anaconda. They are viviparous, which means they give live birth. It's actually pretty unusual for a snake. So, how many live babies are we talking about? A typical litter is maybe 20 to 40. But the record for the biggest litter ever is just staggering. It's this many. 100. A single female anaconda was once documented giving birth to 100 live babies all at once. And we're not talking about tiny, helpless little things. From the moment they're born, these babies are already over 2 feet long. And there's no parental care at all. They are born and boom, they are immediately on their own. Fully functional ambush predators from day one. So, when you really look past that Hollywood monster, you see this creature that's just perfectly designed for its world. It's a master of the ambush, an evolutionary marvel, and a bizarrely successful parent. Which kind of leaves us with one last thought. Is the anaconda best defined as an apex predator? Or is it, maybe more accurately, the perfect survivor? Okay, when you think of the Amazon jungle, what's one of the first creatures that comes to mind? For a lot of us, it's this legendary snake lurking in the murky waters, the green anaconda. It's become this larger-than-life figure, right? A giant, a myth, honestly, a monster in a lot of stories. So what's the real story here? Let's dive in and really separate the chilling facts from the Hollywood fiction. And that really brings us to the big question, the one we're going to tackle today. Is this snake really the man-eating monster we see in movies? Or is it something else entirely? A deeply misunderstood ruler of the Amazon? That's what we're here to figure out. All right, first things first, we have to talk about the elephant or the snake in the room. The biggest fear that pops into everyone's head, does the anaconda actually hunt people? Let's confront that legend head on. So let's just get this out of the way right now. The fear, it's not completely crazy. I mean, look at the facts. A full-grown anaconda is without a doubt physically capable of killing and swallowing a human being. The sheer size and power, yeah, it's definitely there. No question about it. But, and this is a huge but, just because it can do something doesn't mean it actually does. The truth is, documented, confirmed fatal attacks on humans are, well, almost unheard of. They're just so uncommon. Why? Well, it's pretty simple. We're not on the menu. Okay, so let's get real about the actual risk here. First off, they're not venomous, so that's one myth busted. But their bite is no joke. Those backward curved teeth are designed to hold on, and they can cause some serious damage. You definitely don't want to get into a wrestling match with one in the water, because that's their home turf. That's where they have all the advantages. But here's the most important part, the thing to really remember. They're generally shy creatures. For all that power, their first instinct is almost always to get away from you. All right, so we've kind of dealt with the monster myth. Now let's shift gears and look at what this animal actually does. Beyond the scary stories, the anaconda plays an absolutely critical role in the Amazon. It's not just some random predator, it's what scientists call a keystone species. And this really shows you how it's all connected, this whole cycle of life. On one hand, it's this top-tier predator, right? It keeps the populations of big animals like capybaras and deer in check. But it's a two-way street. When they're young and small, anacondas are actually prey for jaguars and caimans. And then, at the very end of its life, its huge body becomes this incredible source of food for all sorts of scavengers, putting all those nutrients right back into the ecosystem. It's a perfect system. So how does it do all this? Well, it's because the anaconda is basically a perfectly designed super predator. Some of its adaptations are just, wow, they're genuinely awe-inspiring. Let's get into some of the biology. Check this out. 2. What does that number mean? That's how many years an anaconda can potentially go without a single meal after it's had a really big one. 2 years. It basically just slows its entire metabolism down to a crawl. It's an unbelievable feat of energy conservation. And when it finally does eat, talk about efficient. Its stomach acid is so ridiculously strong that it can dissolve pretty much everything. We're talking bones, hooves, horns, stuff that seems indestructible. It all just gets broken down. Almost nothing is left. And here's what's so wild. This is one of the heaviest snakes on the entire planet, right? A true heavyweight. And yet, it can move through the water like a ghost. It's almost completely silent, totally invisible in that murky water, sneaking up on its prey without a sound. It's a total paradox. You know, this incredible mix of raw power and silent stealth. It's no surprise that the people who've lived alongside it for centuries have noticed. For a lot of indigenous Amazonian tribes, the anaconda isn't a monster. It's something to be revered. It shows up in their myths and legends as this huge symbol of creation, of the power of nature itself. So you have this ancient creature. It's powerful, it's respected, it seems totally invincible. But the truth is, even this fragile giant is now in a serious fight for its own survival. Now, you might look up its official status and get a little confused. The IUCN, that's the big international body for conservation, lists it as least concern. Technically, that means it's not considered endangered right now. But that label can be really misleading. It definitely doesn't tell the whole story. And here's why. Even with that least concern status, the anaconda is facing some major pressure. Its home is literally disappearing because of deforestation. People are still hunting it illegally for its skin. And then there's the illegal pet trade, which captures these animals from the wild. Every single one of these is a serious threat, and they're all caused by us. Think about this for a second. The green anaconda is basically a living dinosaur. It has ruled its part of the world for millions of years. It's survived ice ages, asteroids, you name it. But the biggest challenge it's ever faced in all that time? It's happening right now. And it leaves us with a really tough question to think about. After all that, will it be able to survive us?